when we get to our
Could you repeat your name again, please?
my name is Dawn Opara, and we're excited. So when we get to the point where we're having speakers, you can put yourself in speaker mode so that you can see them. Okay, but I'm grateful for seeing you all on the call this morning. And we're going to do some really brief introductions. So Michael Mumper, our program director, will help us with that.
Thanks so much, Don. So just for the sake of my sanity, I'm going to try to do my best to go right across the Zoom screen here. So when you hear your name called out, just say your name. And just for today, since we have so many people, just say the name of the organization you work with. Shanika, would you like to start?
Sure. Shanika Brown, Fayette County Schools.
Thanks, Shanika. Pat, welcome.
Thank you. Pat Burke, Midwest Food Bank.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn.
Fayette County Schools.
Chris Dunn, Fayette County Schools. Ted Kirk. Who are you joining us with today, Ted?
Hold on for a second. I am joining you as myself.
We love it. Thank you. Nora.
Nora Plains United Way 211.
Thanks, Nora. Kim B.
Kim Bryan, school social worker with Fayette County Schools.
Thanks, Kim. Greg.
Greg Georgiani with the Real Life Center.
Excellent. Dr. Patterson, we'll wait for you for a moment. Adrian Johnson.
Adrian Johnson, Fayette County Counseling Center.
Thank you. Krista.
Krista Gantz, Georgia Center for Child Advocacy.
Thank you. Holly.
Holly Line, Fayette County Department of Family and Children's Services.
Thank you. Kim, I think you're co-presenting with us today. Is that right? So we'll
Yes,
hold
sir.
off on you for a moment. Aliana.
Hi, I'm Aliana Stanley, and I'm here on behalf of Drug Free Fayette.
Excellent. Lucy, hello.
Hello, Lucy Huff, Fayette Pregnancy Resource Center.
Thank you. Michael C.
Mike Coates with the Salvation Army of Fayette and Clayton counties.
Welcome. Kim, good morning.
Kim Heron with Fayette County Public Schools.
Oh, I saw Kim. I'm sorry. There's another Kim on the call, but thank you, Kim Heron. Kim Richardson, good morning.
Hi, my name is Kim Richardson with the Georgia Department of Public Health.
Wonderful. Bejane, I hope I said that somewhat close.
You're close. You're close. It's Bijane. I'm Bijane Kareem with BK International Education Consultancy.
Hello, Bejane. Tom, good morning.
Hi, I guess I'm Drug Free Fayette Alcohol Group.
Welcome. I see Brown's iPhone. You're on mute.
Hey, Michelle Martin, school social worker, Fayette County School System. I had to use my telephone.
No problem. Welcome, Michelle. Tambra, hello.
Good morning, Timber Foster with Behavioral Health Link Mobile Crisis.
Excellent. Audrey, good morning.
Good morning, Audrey Tony, Director of Student Services for Fayette County Schools.
Thank you. Thank you. Leonard, hello.
Hello, everyone. Leonard Pressburg, Fayette County School Board.
Welcome. Abigail, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Abigail Clifford with District 4 Public Health.
Hello. Judge Ott, good morning.
Good morning. Stephen Ott, the Juvenile Court of Fayette County.
Great. Melanie, good morning.
Good morning, Melanie Holt, Parent Liaison at Bennett Mill Middle School.
Nice to have you here. Vanessa, good morning.
Good morning, Vanessa Johnson, Board Member of Factor.
Wonderful. Let's see. The pictures are moving around, so forgive me. Zena, hello.
Hi, good morning. Zena Sanders from Promise Place.
Wonderful. Win, good morning.
Michael?
I'm
Maybe
still
we'll-
here. I was trying to see if Win Roraba could introduce himself. You're on mute, Win. Tyler?
Tyler with Fayette County Work and Nutrition.
Welcome. So the pictures have been bouncing around a little bit. Have I missed anyone? Raise your hand or just holler.
Kelly.
Don't see. I don't even see. Kelly, hello?
Hey, Michael, it's Kelly
Oh.
Green.
Hi, Kelly.
Hey, retired counselor from FCBOE, and I'm a project manager with you guys at Fayette Factor on the 2-Gen grant.
Excellent. Lisa, how about you then? Miss Stanley?
Lisa Stanley with Fayette Factor.
And I'm Michael Mumper with Drug Free Fayette and Fayette Factor. Dawn, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Something that you might do just for the benefit of our speakers so they know where you're from. You know where you can click the button to rename yourself, and you can maybe put your organization just to help them when we're asking questions. Did we get Chris done?
We did, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And just to clarify what Dawn just said, if you hover over your picture on the screen, three little dots should show up at the top right, like a menu bar. And if you click those 3 dots, one of your options is to rename.
And that way, that way it'll help us help the speakers know who, and just to help everybody know who you're with. So thank you so much for that. I want to start with just a quick announcement. I just put it in the chat. I know some of the organizations are concerned with people who are having problems with their rent, and so and mortgages and utilities. So I put in the chat information that comes from the Community Affairs about rental assistance. Over $552 million plus $437 million have been given to the state of Georgia to help people with rental assistance for 18 months. So I wanted you all to know that so that you can share it with folks, and then, you know, take it out of the chat or save the chat so that you have it, because it's a lot of good information for people who have been impacted by COVID. I want to officially welcome you all here this morning because we wanted to tell you first about what we're doing this year. We have a theme this year, and our theme is the collectively supporting and promoting the good work and the needs of our collaborative partners. That's what we want to do. We want to be able to shine a spotlight on you and promote the work that you do, and have you help promote and learn a little more about your fellow collaborative partners. We desperately would love to be in-person meetings, but we're not there yet. We're doing it month to month based on what's going on in the community. We thought we'd be back in in-person meetings this month, but it's not happening. And we'll poll you when you all feel like it's a good time to be able to do that. So, and we're going to talk, Lisa, you're going to talk a little more about why we're doing this. And there's in your calendars, you got calendars of our meetings. Lisa, did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Good morning again, everyone. As Dawn said, we have chosen a theme this year to make our collaborative a little bit different, to change the focus back onto our collaborative members 100%, and to make it more focused so that we can really learn about what you're doing. We're not interested in hearing generally what you do, what's on your website. We want to hear what's really going on. What are your current needs? Do you have an event coming up soon that you'd like us to support? How can we support you? What are your challenges? What's your good news? We want to get a little bit more in depth with each collaborative member so that we can better help each other this year, so that we all together can be more successful for Fayette County. So when we sent out the email a couple of weeks ago, when Dawn sent it out, we invited each person to tell us when you want to be featured. We may not have 1 or 2 people in a meeting, it may be 3, but you choose a meeting that you think is best for your organization. If you have a special fundraiser, or if you have a special need coming up, an event, just let us know. And you got the dates of the meeting. If you are new and you don't have the dates, just please send us an email at information@fayettefactor.org, and we will send you the meeting dates, and you can choose whatever date it suits you, and you can change.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. And I did want to just shout out to our new executive director over at Real Life Center. This is his first meeting, Greg Georgiana.
Yep.
Yeah, there he goes. So just new person. Also, just based on what Lisa's saying, we're kicking off this year with our school system, one of our largest partner, collaborative partner, with our Dr. Patterson and Ms. Kim Heron. Dr. Patterson is our superintendent of schools, and Ms. Heron, who some of you heard from last month, was the assistant superintendent in charge of student achievement. We sent you their bios. Dr. Patterson says he doesn't like to have long bios, but he did come from, he's a lifelong member of the Metro Atlanta. This is where he's been. He's worked, he got his terminal degrees, and Kim has been an administrator for a very long time. So I invite you to go ahead and look at their bios. But what I'd like to do is to, if you all put it in speaker mode, I would like to introduce Dr. Patterson and him introduce Ms. Heron, and with just some opening remarks. And then we're going to ask, we have some questions that we want to ask. And then if you all have questions, we very much would like you to put it inside the chat. Michael and Lisa will help monitor the chat so that we can have your questions answered. But we do have a few prepared questions. So Dr. Patterson.
Thank you, Dawn. I know it's uncomfortable for me to just use first names, so it's my background here that gets in the way. But thank you, Dawn. I'm trying. Michael, thank you for those introductions, those help. You did that in such a great way. I'll have to use your skill when making introductions over Zoom. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to engage with the collaborative this afternoon. I want to thank all of you that are involved and give a special thank you to all of the Fayette County Public Schools employees that are on the call. It is a big team that we have here for our mission. And so I just want to thank all of you that are on the call. I'm especially grateful to our board. Mr. Pressburg's on the call as well. We're very fortunate to have a professional board that is interested in the best interest of our students and our community. So again, I want to thank our board for that. Joining me in the call today is a longtime Fayette County employee, Kim Heron. Kim is the new assistant superintendent. She has a long history here in Fayette as a teacher, as a special education teacher, assistant principal, elementary director. So just thank you, Kim, for being on the call today as well. Dawn, if you want to start off with sort of the back and forth questions, I can give just a general update at this point in time of how we're doing, but we're excited.
Okay.
Second semester has begun and we are doing well. COVID tends to throw us all a curveball in the school system. As soon as we think we're out of it, we're back in it. And that's been I guess our biggest challenge at the beginning of this semester is to deal with the Omicron. That is not our mission. However, it is something that we have to deal with and manage and lead ourselves through there. But we're excited about the education we're providing our students in Fayette.
Okay, well, we'll just start out with what are you most proud of in 2021? What the school year before this semester started.
Well, I think the thing that I'm most proud of is we've been able to continue operations last year with the interruptions that we had as a community. We realized that kids need an education, and so we were fortunate to be able to do both in-person and virtual last year. The virtual last year was not as successful as we would like, but families who chose that option, we were able to provide that for them. I am most proud of our teachers, our support staff that helped our students come back into the learning environment in person. Our teachers who taught virtual, all that they did to try to engage their students. Most proud of our principals and leaders in our school system for the leadership that they provided their staff. Fear is a dangerous emotion, and I think the tip of the spear was our principals, our counselors, our support staff, the front office folks, answered the call, our nurses, and how they help assure people that school was the safest place for your children to be at. I'm probably most proud of that. We achieved a lot last year. Our student achievement was good. It wasn't like it was maybe in the past, but in perspective of other school districts, I think we did extremely well. I'm proud of the opportunities that we gave students in our CTE programs. I'm proud of our athletics and fine arts that we were able to continue that and have kids who maybe this was their junior year of high school, and this was a big year for them and the year of breakout year for them. And so I'm most proud of those students being able to achieve what they hoped and aspired to do last year.
Thank you so much. Kim, do you have anything, Ms. Karen, do you have anything to add?
You can call me Kim, Don. We go way back, don't we?
We do.
So in addition to all those things that Dr. Patterson highlighted, we're also very proud of the leadership development that we have in place within our school system. We've had a lot of work in different layers of leadership development, from building level leaders to new principals to assistant principals and aspiring assistant principals and aspiring principals. And we're going to also beef up our leadership development with our teachers in the upcoming months and next year. We can't do this work alone, and developing leaders within is very important to us as we look at one of our challenges that I know will be a question that you'll ask is, the attrition to, really the hiring and maintaining highly effective staff. So we are doing a really strong focus on leadership development. Our leaders and our support staff, many are on this call today, are highly visible in our schools and in our communities, and they have a good pulse on what's happening in their schools to meet the needs of first our students and second our staff. So we're really proud of that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So this is a nice segue into this next question. What do you see as the major challenges that are facing Fayette County School District specifically, and just public education in general? And that could be either you,
Yeah,
Kim,
I think
or
we are not isolated from the labor shortages that we have in the metro area and really in the United States right now. I think that's probably one of our greatest challenges, is to maintain the level of education and service that people have grown accustomed to, which is the expectation here. So I think that's one of our greatest challenges is to hire and retain the staff that we have, to attract new staff to come in, I see Kelly Green on the call, people like Kelly who can retire, they do retire, but then keeping them engaged and bringing them back to help us. So Kelly, thank you so much for coming back and helping us a little bit in the school system as well. But that's one of our greatest challenges, I think, is retention of staff. I think we've got a few openings in bus drivers and parapros and food service workers. We're trying to keep up with the wages that have grown, inflation that's happened. I think everything that's happened in that businesses are dealing with, we're dealing with as well. And so that's one of our greatest challenges, I think, that we're dealing with. The achievement gap, the learning loss, the engagement loss, the muscle memory loss for some of our students that were not as engaged last year due to a lot of different circumstances that the students really didn't all own. That's probably our greatest long-term challenge that we have. We see students that fell back, and we have students that are accelerating forward. And so we still have that challenge of being able to educate those students who have a lot of gaps from last year due to a lot of different circumstances. We see that when we come in on a daily basis. We can tell those students who really did not engage much in learning last year. Our teachers have struggled to get them caught up. A few more challenges that we have is balances of technology in our schools, with the need for concurrent learning, for Zoom. That's been a good thing, and not such a good thing is that we see computers being a real part of the future, but how do we balance the computer usage with our students and make sure that we're engaging them in hands-on activities in schools? So those are some of our challenges that we have, but I think the biggest one is really the staff challenge. And let me give you an example of that. We currently are, when a student is quarantined now due to a positive or a close contact, we will send that student home and offer concurrent learning for that student. That is a huge ask for our teachers to do that and be able to teach the students in person, but as well as the students that are at home quarantined. That is not sustainable from a staff perspective to ask staff to do that long term. And so we've had to figure that out. We cannot sustain some of the things that we've done with COVID. For instance, our nurses, right now I'm going around talking to nurses. Every conversation that they have with a parent is 5 to 10 minutes long. And if you can imagine how many students that we have that and families that are dealing with this, we're having to relook at our strategy for COVID and moving from a pandemic strategy to an endemic strategy, and then keeping the trust of all of our community along with that through this process of this transition from pandemic to endemic, and not diminishing our relationships with families through that process, but being able to manage all the complexity that goes along with staff trying to do everything that they're trying to do for the students inside, but also support those students that are on quarantine.
Let me help me understand that. Like when they're on quarantine and they're doing it concurrently, does that mean there's like hybrid learning, like they're in the classroom, and that's what's not sustainable?
What's not sustainable is a teacher teaching the let's just say 25 students that are in front of them, and then also trying to set up that Zoom link and set up the activities that are associated with that classroom with those 1 or 2 students that may be virtually, and doing both at the same time and trying to manage both environments at the same time. Teachers have been successful doing that for portions of the day or portions of the week or once a week, but to do that day after day after day is we both environments are hurt by it, and so we just can't sustain doing that. All the systems that tried to do that last year and the year prior, they've stopped doing that now because it's really not effective. So, but we want people to stay engaged if they're on quarantine. But clearly, this is something that is really challenging for us to do for those students who are quarantined.
Could I ask a clarifying question, Dawn?
Sure.
Dr. Patterson, you used the words achievement gap, and achievement gap could mean theoretically several different things. And I wonder what you're focusing on. Are you focusing on the student learning ability compared to what they could be learning, or compared to other students, or what?
Really, right now, I'm talking about student success, as in passing their classes, or achievement data on statewide achievement scores. What we saw is that the students who were either had a coach at home if they were virtual, which is a very small group of students that were successful virtually. But most of the students who were in person did much better than those that were in virtual. So we saw that many students who were virtual could not engage for a variety of reasons at home on a consistent basis. And so if you can imagine, running a race and trying to accomplish fifth grade content, but if you're not able to engage in that fifth grade content in a consistent way, you're going to get behind further and further from those students who are in fifth grade who are consistently engaging in that content and moving forward. So there are many students, and I caution us to get into the many, but that really did not have much of an education for a year and a half. And so that's probably what we see with a small group of students here. But it's a critical mass of students who really missed a year of education. So that's one of our greatest challenges. Luckily, we didn't have the numbers in virtual that other systems had, but we had many, and many who weren't able to engage for a variety of reasons in their schooling.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. And you mentioned workforce, and that's going to be a question that we're going to ask, because I think workforce is an issue across the nation in terms of having folks and retention. And so one of the questions, a follow-up question that is, are there things that the community can do to help, like what ways that people can be helpful in, the support staff, whatever, buses, bus drivers, if there are things that the community can do and put the word out, or if you are doing something special to attract and folks to fill up the gaps.
So Dawn, I'll talk a little bit about that. One area which we need assistance with is substitute teachers. Our pool or our need for substitute teachers, and historically, we have over a 90% fill rate across the board, which is outstanding, 95% many days fill rates. Fridays are typically a struggle to have a high fill rate, but in the past, we were able to have the majority of our teaching positions filled with substitutes. This year, it's a different story. And we're constantly recruiting subs. I know Erin is doing a training on Wednesday, her department, Erin Robertson's department in HR, trains subs much more frequently than they've ever done that. So, it's a great opportunity to get connected with the schools for retired individuals, or maybe even college students that don't have a full load of classes that would be willing to get trained to come on board to help us out in that arena. Just as, the bus driver piece, that's been always attractive to retired folks, but now many of them are not seeking that due to COVID is one reason. Any of the avenues in our school system to apply for jobs, the more applicants we have, the better chance that we hire quality individuals. And so just, get the word out that we're a great place to work. We support each other, and we have a great benefits package for full-time positions. And, that's just would help us out greatly.
Thank you for that. So I hope everybody's hearing that and knowing, if you know folks, let folks know, people that have extra time, about the opportunity to do substitute teaching. Thank you so much. How would you describe the morale of the school personnel, both the instructional and the support staff?
I think it's good, but it depends. Morale is a really tough thing to measure, and it's definitely a tough thing to try to work on. It's about those relationships and the leadership that's in the school. where we see highly engaged principals, engaged assistant principals, teams of teachers, whether it be a first grade team or a seventh grade team, where we see good leadership and that collaboration among that group. I think teachers feel a lot of support staff feels encouraged. So that's the lever that we've been pulling in that one is leadership development, making sure that they have the data that they need to make adjustments to the morale, the climate, the culture. So I think but it is a challenge. To Ms. Herron's point, pay is something that people obviously want to see. It's really hard right now to try to stay aggressive in that area with what we're seeing out there in the marketplace in terms of pay. So we're working on all fronts, keep our folks. It's a lot easier to retain an employee than try to hire a new employee. So we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that morale stays high, that people stay excited about what we're doing. I think the challenges that we've seen with folks is sort of gets out of our scope when we are required by lots of different reasons to get outside of our scope is when people don't feel like they can be as successful as they can. So teachers want to teach, they want to stay in the classroom, they want to engage their students. The lots of outside factors that come to the schoolhouse door that we don't all have the skills to deal with. And I think that impacts people's morale as well as whether or not they feel like they can be successful with their core job. And a lot of things are pulling us away from some of our core responsibilities of teaching and learning. You've seen that probably in your own organization with what you're asked to do and the things you're asked to support. But for us, we're a teaching and learning organization, and we're excited about getting back to that piece and trying to minimize all the expectations that we have to do all the other things besides provide a high quality education for our students. So I think in general, I'm really proud of our principals who set the tone for the culture in their schools. And where we can improve, we're trying to get the data and the support to those principals so that they can impact their culture in a positive way to retain the staff and to make sure that the learning environment is positive.
Yeah, I've chatted with folks who have retired, and I've heard this, and someone made the statement that, the first year of COVID, teachers and education people were kind of like heroes, and now it's kind of like being villains because there's demands coming from outside the school. Sometimes there are parent demands and certain things. And so when I was talking about morale, what are those outside forces that might be impacting our educators?
Well, I think one of the outside forces is student achievement. If kids are coming to them with that learning gap, that achievement gap, as we mentioned before, they have, a longer race to run in the time that they have their students. So building that student agency, getting students to see that, yes, I can tackle that, building, their stamina back up to perform with a level of high expectations, but scaffold the appropriate supports. And the same with teachers. Teachers need to feel they make a difference. So building that teacher agency and having leaders, whether it's a department chair, a grade chair, or assistant principal, or district office staff, recognizing some of those important instructional strategies teachers use that really make a difference for students. And and bring that to the teacher's conscious level. Sometimes we get into that automatic mode of how we do things, and teachers don't always recognize the little things that they do that really make a difference for their students. And so I think that just success builds success, right? And we all like to feel we've accomplished something, and I think pointing that out and being really intentional with the time that we have our learners and how we're using that time But, often there are those distractors that do get in the way.
Okay.
Ms. Herron, could you take a step back and follow up on something you mentioned earlier about substitute teaching? Can you tell us how to apply and what the credentials are?
So I saw that in the chat. I don't want to give you the wrong credentials, but it looks like someone put it in there. Awesome. So Dr. Patterson, did you do that?
Yeah, it's mostly you have to have a high school diploma, a little bit of college or equivalent. And so we try to work with folks to get have them. We've changed the requirements really for substituting based on the need as well. Dawn, we've got a couple social workers on the call too. I think they probably have several stories to say this a little bit better than I can in terms of the challenge. But I was in a school this morning and I listened to the nurse talk to a family about a positive case. And I think what we're seeing is the majority of folks, and I'm talking about 98, 99% of the people really support what the school system is trying to do to keep our students safe and in school and our staff safe and in school. But we do see that the national rhetoric around COVID, around masking, all of that makes its way into the schoolhouse, and it is really can be very challenging for different folks, specifically our nurses who are on the front line, trying to explain this, trying to say, you get into everything from vaccinations to masks. And so all of those things that we see in the news happens, and it puts people in a divided area. I had a parent meeting the other day, and I made the mistake of starting the meeting talking about COVID, and it's interesting because people go to their sides, and so I had COVID a couple weeks ago, the Omicron, after being vaccinated and boosted, and so it's not something I want anybody to get, and so it wasn't very fun. But people have a lot of opinions about it. But our main thing is, how do we keep kids in school? How do we keep staff in school? And so that we can provide the best education possible. And that's in itself a really hard thing for school systems to do. For 180 days, very few, if not any school systems can be at that level of consistency to provide 180 days of high quality, engaging instruction and learning. So that's what we're all about. And we try not to get into all of the divisive issues, but they do land in our front offices and in our email box.
And thank you for that. And I know first responders, healthcare workers, and educators, they said they are somewhat exhausted, because of the impact of COVID on what they would normally do. So that takes me to mental health a little bit, because two things. One is students. The Surgeon General said that mental health is now a crisis among young people that are in school-age folks, but also in terms of that morale and that those outside forces that impact what you would normally do, because we're in a pandemic, or hopefully, the question is, what are you doing to help with the mental health of your workers? Are there any things in place? Because I know people say they're exhausted.
One of the things we offer through our Human Resources Department is the Employee Assistance Services. So all employees are offered up to 5 free and confidential professional support consultations, whether it's via conference call or Zoom, or some may even be able to be a face-to-face setting, in the areas of relationships, grief and loss, job pressures, debt, retirement planning, and identity theft. So that is a free service, for those initial consultations. So that's part of the perks of being a Fayette County employee.
Okay.
I wanted to go back and address some of the issues that social workers have seen. Of course, this has been challenging. We were still seeing some attendance issues because kids were used to staying home. But one thing that we've been able to do is to really point out to parents a lot of the safety measures we have in our schools. We have it in writing. All of our schools have that printed. I've also connected parents with administrators, with counselors who can go through day to day how things are set up in their building for parents who are really hesitant about their kids being in school. We've just tried to emphasize that our environments are very safe. And I think the record shows that. So it is getting better. Things are getting better. We feel like we're making a lot of progress. We're just trying to meet the needs of the family and try to take into consideration their perspective and all their concerns. So we're just using everything that we have out there, all the printed information, the weekly updates, and to point out to them, how things are going in the school system. And I think a lot of them are feeling a lot better about things.
Okay, that's good to hear. With respect to students and their mental health, I don't know who can speak to that best, but are there things in place because that's what the national statistics are saying. They're concerned about young folks because this has gone on for a point in terms of how they're feeling. So does the school system address that in any way?
Dawn, it's a real challenge for us to address the mental health pieces of our students. We do not have specialized counselors that are trained in this. Our counselors do a great job of touching base with our students, the relationships that they have with students, as well as our teachers, and getting students to the right place. As you know, there's a challenge being able to even get an appointment with a professional licensed counselor in the community. There's just not enough of those resources. So it is a challenge, I think, for our organization as well as others to be able to provide those services because it's not our core business. However, how can we help those students get what they need so that they can be successful in the classroom? That it is a challenge for us, and it's something that we're continuing to look at. And I know our Board of Education is interested in that as well. But finding the right pieces is really challenging. Kim, as a social worker, you're doing those home visits. You're seeing those pieces. What we see is those 6.5 hours that we have them. It's just part of the story. And when the students go home, there's a lot of other things that are impacting our students that impact their mental health, from food insecurity to housing insecurity to trauma that's going on. Kim, you probably can spend a whole day on this.
Yes. We make referrals. We mental health referrals for families every day. And I just want to add that we are the counselors and social workers. We are making those referrals. And Dr. Patterson, you're right. Our therapists are really booked. I've never seen such a demand. It seems like about every other week, I start calling all the different therapy agencies saying, does anyone have openings? We need somebody who needs to be seen. And of course, we hook them up if there is emergency with the GCAL, the Georgia Crisis and Access Line. We're lucky in Georgia to have access to that. That's also referral program, but it also responds if there is a mental health emergency. They can actually bring a crisis team to your home. So this has been very beneficial, but just know that we are not in the business of therapy, and we have to sort of remind parents of that all the time, that our counselors are not therapists, but our counselors are doing a fantastic job of making those referrals, and we stay really hooked in with our community resources. We have a community resource list, and we have a care referral list of people who can see kids in an emergency. So we're staying in touch with our community partners to help with those needs. And it is really huge at this time.
Thank you so much. Please, Michael put in the chat, if you have questions, go ahead and start putting them in the chat. We have a few more other questions that we wanted to ask. And one of the questions is, as a collaborative, as partners, as people in the community, in her human services, how can we help support our school system? And be specific, what can we do think about us as human service folks who care about our community, care about the folks, the students and the staff. What can we do?
I think the goals that you have as a collaborative, I think make a big difference within our entire community, which helps our school system. We're really interested in the Birth to 5 initiative. Dawn, I know that you have been instrumental, and this organization has been instrumental in trying to get that off the ground. Many of our students that before they meet their first teacher are behind. And so that coming to school without any preschool is something that is really challenging for us, the school system, to catch those students back up, because we do see that variability with students. Some students come to kindergarten reading, and other students can't recognize their letters. So it is a real challenge for us to do some of those preschool pieces. We're only funded for really K through 12, so 13 grades, and taking on any more ages would be a huge challenge for any school system. I think literacy within our community, how literate we are, how much we have books and have access to books and have students consistently reading. Reading is the number one thing that is the best prevention medicine. And so we like Americans, we like interventions, but if we can just get in more of the preventive business, that's hard to measure, and it's hard to maybe get a grant to measure that. But the best intervention is a prevention, and that really includes reading in our schools and in our homes. So I would think that's one of the areas that I'd like to see personally is a major literacy initiative in our county, so that students can have access to books and when they do their well visits, when they go home from the hospital, from birth to their first day of kindergarten, just having that access to literacy, good rich books in their school, or excuse me, in their home, in their car, wherever you can have a book. I think access makes the biggest difference.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Anything else on that question in terms of how we can be supportive and help our schools? Literacy is one. Before they enter school and in those homes. Okay. And I know we are working on that. Anything else that we can do to help support the school system? If we were all given the task of sharing good news about our school system to our social media page, like if there were like 5 things that you would want us to tell people, because we're going to put it on our social media pages, we're going to put it in our newsletters, or what would you want to tell us?
Well, I think we're all social creatures. So I think the best way to share a story is to know a story about what's happening in a classroom, to know what's happening in one school, to have seen the experiences of students, of teachers, of leaders. So I would ask folks to ask questions from the teachers that they know. Just say, tell me one thing that's good that's going on at your school. I think that's one of the best things that I can do, is to share stories of the great things that are happening in our classrooms. We have a lot of programs that you can get involved in through our CTE program. We just created an aviation program at Stars Mill. Student Successes Awards, we have a lot.
I'm going to slow you down, because there's some people in the community that don't know what CTE is, because some people don't have children in the school. I know what it is, but if you would just share that.
Well, CTE is a program, really starts in middle school. You can start in 5th grade, but it goes from middle school to high school, and it's career technical education. You might hear it CTAE, and the A stands for agriculture. We don't have an agricultural program in Fayette, but what the idea is to have the high school be an opportunity for students to get those initial skills, learn those So maybe you're interested in automotive. We have a certification program to become ASE certified. We just added, as I mentioned, an aviation program, which allows students to complete their first series of tests to become a pilot. So these are some of the ways that we're engaging students, but we always need the community to come in and serve on our advisory teams. So maybe you are in the culinary business. We have a culinary program at different schools. And so how can you come in and serve as an expert to provide those internships for students, externships for teachers? That's our CTE program really allows us to connect with the workforce in our community, in our area.
Okay. That leads us to another question, because sometimes people in the community don't know all the initiatives that you all have and some of the special programs that you have and how to do that connection. So how do we do that better? I think one of the questions I have is, I know several years ago we used to have the state of the schools with the chamber, and they would actually tell us about all the great things that were happening in the schools and like some of the programs that were in different schools. And because I didn't have kids in the school system, I was like, wow, the school's doing that. And so I think that wow for the community, you know, is there a way to do that? Because otherwise there's a lot of stuff on your website, but I'm just wondering if there are ways to connect the community that don't have people in the school system with what's going on in our school system, because it continues to be our crown jewel for our community.
Dawn, you touch on something that's so important for us to keep people who maybe whose students are graduating, keep them involved in the school system. Everyone has an investment here in our schools. So looking for opportunities to continue to engage families is part of our core business, whether it be through advisory teams. We have several advisory teams in the school system. Our most recent was the suggestion from one of our board members that's on the call today of how do we get parents in the community involved, have them learn about, not just parents, but community members, have them learn about what's happening in the school system, more of a leadership Fayette sort of feel to it. So we've got this program called Propel and promoting public educational leadership with parents and community members. So that's an exciting program. We do a state of the school with the chamber. That's been changed and tweaked just a little bit to include other partners in this workforce development piece that's so important for chambers to do. We just had an eSPLOST that's going to be up for renewal in May for the school system. We just had an advisory committee come together and recommend projects for each feeder pattern as well as one for the school system. So it is a challenge to get as much feedback as we can to keep our community engaged in our schools. We're so fortunate to have great leaders in our cities and our county commission areas that want to learn about what's happening in our schools and know the importance between that relationship between different governmental agencies. So for instance, I'm meeting with the Peachtree City on Friday and have a great relationship with the new mayor and the mayor in Fayetteville. So we're excited about all the opportunities to engage and welcome this group's participation in the helping our school system become better. So those are some of the things that we're doing. There's always more opportunities to engage and collaborate with one another.
Okay, like Propel, like if somebody wanted to be a part of Propel so that they could, learn more, because, I'm always interested personally to know what are the new things that are happening. I'm so far removed.
If they can reach out to myself or we have Virginia Gibbs, who's sort of taken the lead in all of our leadership development initiatives, from principal leadership development to teacher leadership development to aspiring assistant principal leadership development. and parent leadership development. We're organizing parents and community members around this area. So you can reach out to myself or to Virginia Gibbs, and we're finishing up the first cohort of community members through Propel right now. They visited schools a couple months ago, and we're coming back together in March to finish up this first cohort, and then we're going to be starting another cohort for next year. So I would love to have members of this collaborative be a part of that.
Okay, so do you advertise it, or we just have to contact you?
We do advertise it. We don't probably push it out into a Facebook. We wanted to get it started through recommendations from our principals, parents that they know, and from board members. Our Board of Education recommended folks as well. So that was the first cohort. The second cohort, we may, I guess, expand our recruitment efforts in that area. But again, we're just not interested in folks that want to maybe just put something more on their resume. We're looking for folks that want to be involved in the school system, that want to contribute, have a vested interest in the school system. So that's who we've targeted, people who are maybe rising leaders in the community, newer leaders, people have shown interest in their own school or their own children's education. That's who we've targeted so far.
Okay, thank you.
So, Dawn, if I can kind of interject, I see that in the chat, Bejane asked about, do we engage our students in STEM or STEAM programs or activities to integrate learning and engage students? Absolutely, yes. They may look different from school to school, and especially from elementary to as you go up to the higher levels. And some schools have a really stronger focus. I know that was a topic that came up when we go out and are about to hire a new principal. I can use an example. We recently were able to hire, had an opportunity when Miss Lawrence, Tabitha Lawrence, left Fayetteville Elementary School. We hired a new principal, and we hired from within. It's Dr. Reckley, Monica Reckley, and she had been an assistant principal at North Fayette. And she, one of the parent questions was, what makes Fayetteville Elementary School special? We hear about some schools having special initiatives. So there are conversations occurring about what can we do to highlight our learners within our schools. So most schools, principals highlight those pieces within their school community with their PTO or PTSO and school councils. And that is a great way to also engage folks in the community, partnerships within our local churches. I know that one example that Birch uses the community garden over at the local church. They have a partnership and they have their own garden at their school, and so does Flat Rock. So those are pieces that, kids see science right as it's happening, as they're planting and seeing plants grow. It's not in that, agricultural STEM of CTAE, but it is approaching it through the lens of a scientist and ecologist. So we do have those programs occurring across our district. I see Melanie put in the chat that Bennett's Mill is also starting a community garden. That's great. Inman has had one, several schools. FES has had a small garden. So that is one avenue that schools take to get some hands-on experimental, I can't say the word right now, learning, that the kids actually experience the learning and the doing and make connections.
Well, that's good to know that's going on. Is there like a white paper or some kind of a 2-pager that tells like some of the great things that are happening at the school, some of the innovations, something that somebody could read or get to, especially for us folks who aren't in the school system, but want to be able to say, you know, they have this special science program or this, you know, the stuff that a lot of folks that don't have kids in the school would love to know.
One of the places they could go is our district homepage. And there are press releases and news items that of current things that are happening that might highlight. We don't have it all packaged in one place, but that's a great idea to maybe move towards some things to help highlight. You know, sometimes we have to recruit volunteers for special activities. And so, you know, maybe that's one thing that if Fayette Factor has an opportunity to like look at community members that are interested in supporting and volunteering in our schools and what their area of talent or interest is. That might be a great way that we could partner back and forth.
Okay. Are there any other questions in the chat? I don't see any. So with you all received extra funding because of COVID. What is that? What are you doing with that? I know that some schools have. So what are you all doing with the funding? I don't know, were those ARPA funds, American Rescue Funds?
Yeah, we have ARP funds as well as CARES funding, which has basically been 3 rounds of funding. Fayette County School was the least, one of, I think, the top 3 least funded school systems in Georgia, just because of our poverty rate. And so comparison in terms of the amount of money that we receive from the feds compared to, say, a Fulton or a Clayton, just per pupil, was very small. Most of our funds were used to shore up our balance as we lost funding in the last funding for the state. Our FTE was cut, and so we moved $5 million over to our general fund to sustain what we were doing. Additionally, we've spent significant money on computers. We have bought instructional resources, PPE. We still have some of those funds left that we'll be budgeting through. For instance, with the Omicron, we realized the traditional, cloth masks weren't effective, so we had to go out and order more masks, N95. So there's been some surprises along the way in terms of what we've needed some additional funds for. We do still have some funds in reserve to still distribute, but it is, we have not received as much. One of the things I'm real cautious of is how we're spending that and how we sustain those programs that we're spending it on. For instance, there's been a lot of digital resources for students that were provided, and I'm not so sure that's such a good idea to put kids in front of the computer even more. So those are some of the things that we're looking at and carefully making adjustments to as we need. But I don't think money's been our biggest challenge with this, with the COVID right now, just because we've had a focus on trying to be in person, not do as much virtually as maybe some other school systems have done. We have done free summer school, and we will probably do that again. We've done that for the last couple of years. That's been helpful. Ms. Herron, Ms. Tony, what have I missed there on that piece?
I was going to add the summer learning opportunities, which it was the first summer that we offered elementary students a summer learning opportunity. It was a variation of summer school, but Dr. Patterson is absolutely correct about the free summer school. Also, the first semester we had learning grants that the schools could apply for to provide some extra after school or early morning tutorial small group sessions, and you utilize staff already on campus to help support students. And we're looking at doing that again second semester. You know, with all these initiatives, we have to collect data to ensure that what we're doing is making a difference, and report it as part of, you know, there's a lot of regulations with federally funded grants. So we have to be very, very careful with that this isn't replacing something we typically do, that it is enhancing in the realm of instruction. So those are some pieces. I don't know, Audrey, if there's anything that you wanted to add.
I think that you've covered everything. The only thing that I would probably add, I believe Coquita Wilder has been able to supply lunches for all students, removing that barrier of food insecurities, and perhaps other meals for students. I would add to that.
Okay. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions. Do you see any other questions in the chat that I've missed? Lisa?
No, no more questions.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody that's here from the school system and your contributions, because we really do want to spend time knowing more about each partner and how we can be supportive and help, and if there are things that we can do, because we know that if we can work collaboratively and collectively, we do better as a community. And sometimes the community folks just don't know. And so we want good information and not misinformation. And so the more we learn, the better we'll be. So thank you so much, Dr. Patterson, for being here, and Ms. Heron for being here, and all the school social workers and all the school personnel. I saw many of you on the call, so thank you so much for being here. One more thing that I wanted to just kind of announce is that the partnership, we were planning on a partnership for a Healthy Fayette Summit. And because we've had challenges with, you know, COVID, and we wanted it to be an in-person meeting, that is still to be determined. We wanted to do it sometime this semester. So, you know, look out for that. Michael, Lisa, are there anything that I missed that we need to announce? And then if there are coalition members, collaborative members, people here on the call that have anything that you'd like to announce, you know, please let us know, because sometimes this is a good forum to make announcements, like something's coming up, you got a fundraiser or there's a program. And I did put in the chat information about the Georgia rental assistance that comes from the Community of Affairs. And please go to that website, because it tells it's for landlords and for renters, because we know there are people who have that need. And so the woman just reached out to our community to see, to make sure that people know that. So I'll put, that's in the chat, but I'll try to send something out too, so that you all can share that information with other people in the community who have a need for rental assistance. And that's for like 18 months. And there's been millions of dollars given to our state. So we want to make sure those who need it will be able to access that. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to jump on what you just said, Dawn. If anyone has announcements, if we don't have a long line, just start shouting it out. But if we start talking over each other, put up your Zoom hand. The way you do that, if you don't know, is by going to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen. If you click on reactions, you can raise your hand, and you can make an announcement right now. Anyone?
And that's normally what we do when we're in person. See, I just put raise my hand. I'm going to unraise my hand.
Dawn, thank you so much for having us today, this important topic. I want to thank everybody for being on and engaging with us. This is not just a once a year thing for you all. I know I can always pick up the phone and call you, and you're available. So I just want to thank you, Michael, the whole team, and what y'all do for this community. It's a special thing that we have. And it's not by accident. It's about your leadership and this Fayette Factors board and the leadership that you provide in our community. So thank you again for this opportunity. I want to say a special thank you to all the staff that is on the call, our social workers, counselors, administrators. Just thank you for all that you do for our students on behalf of this community. So thank you again.
Thank you. Lisa, did you have something you wanted to say about technology?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I actually wanted to welcome the new people to the call today and to thank them for joining. Bijane, welcome. You asked to join and we're really happy that you came today, and we welcome you next month also, and to everyone else who requested to join today.
And our next meeting is February the 28th, and we'll let you know if we're in person or not. So you look at the time. You have time back. I always like it when meetings in early, because then you have your time back. And we didn't give you all time to talk this time because we wanted to make sure we gave the school system the full amount of time, but we do want to introduce people the next time. So we'll do that at our next meeting. And so thank you all so very much for being here. And if there's nothing else, going once, going twice. Thank you, Dr. Patterson.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We appreciate you.
All righty. Have a good rest of your day.